The 2020 MLB season will be one like any other that we have seen before. A 60-game sprint in just over 2 months to decide who'll be playing in October in a format that lends itself to the unpredictable. But that's where Greg Peterson comes in. He's got you covered daily, highlighting elements and angles that will be essential to know, along with his picks with every single game on every single day. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
And warm hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson, have a great podcast for you as we're going to be chatting with Patrick Creighton. He does a great job with ESPN 97.5 out there in the city of Houston. Obviously, we're going to be talking with him about the Houston Astros, what's going on with the pitching, just some of the famine offense that we wound up seeing over the weekend. And we're going to be chatting with him just with what he's noticed over the first 2+ weeks of the season in general. And we're obviously going to dive into the St. Louis Cardinals situation as well. So we are going to have that in the second segment. In the final segment, I'm going to be giving you guys a sign total on every game on the Tuesday MLB betting board and a little something I like to call touch 'em all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast. Fire that into my timeline at JRScorty1 if you have one. If you send these via direct message, aka DM, well, letters DM to me does not matter. Did not get in any today, so let's take a look back at everything that we saw from a wild and crazy day of baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
If you had the over in the Philadelphia Phillies and Atlanta Braves game, this was not a sweat at all, as the over hit in the second inning. Phillies wind up winning by a count of 13-8 for the Atlanta Braves. You had Sean Newcomb come into this game. He recorded 4 outs, and he gave up 8 runs, all of which were earned. And then from there, Robbie Erlin winds up giving up 3 home runs, 2 2/3 innings. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. Rest of the bullpen wound up giving up 0 earned runs over the course of 4 innings. There was a unearned run that was given up by Grant Dayton, but man, by then the damage had been done. And for the Atlanta Braves, they actually strike for 7 runs in the 9th inning, but they were down by 12 going into that 9th inning. They wound up getting a trio of home runs. Yohan Camargo is second of the campaign, Austin Riley is third, and then you had Travis d'Arnaud get his second in. For d'Arnaud, he gets his home run off of Aaron Supernola, who was super in this game. 10 strikeouts, he goes 8 innings, gave up just that lone run, and then from there, Nick Pivetta. Well, it's proven that he's not necessarily the best of pitchers. He gets 1 out, and he gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. Now he has a 15.88 ERA. Trevor Kelly wound up giving up a run as well, but for the Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper gets his 3rd home run of the campaign. Gene Segura, his first. Didi Gregorius was euphorious for his 3rd home run of the campaign. JT Realmuto winds up getting his 5th home run of the year, and Roman Quinn his first. So that was certainly wild and crazy. How about something that is wild and crazy just from the year in general? The Detroit Tigers are 9-5. They wind up taking down the Chicago White Sox by a count of 5-1. We always hear the rumors that teams coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, they don't necessarily do the best, especially the losing team. That was certainly the case here, as the White Sox wind up leaving 9 men on base. They weren't able to get a whole lot generated. Dallas Keuchel, not necessarily a bad start. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, the bullpen of Cody Hewer winds up giving up 2 runs in an inning, and Steve Cishek wound up having a scoreless inning. And for the Detroit Tigers, how about a pretty solid outing from just about everyone? Michael Former, who's pretty much being used as an opener, plus 3 scoreless innings. Daniel Norris goes 2 scoreless, and then from there, you wind up having John Schreiber go a scoreless inning. Jose Cisterno wound up giving up a run, but you had Mr. Gregory Soto along with Brian Garcia being able to put out the fire, and they were able to get the win in this one. And for the Detroit Tigers, they have just been playing some absolutely insane games. They wound up having 11 plus runs in 2 straight games, but they have overall played in their last 6 games 4 under. So they've been a team that has been trending in that direction, a team that is now trending in the right direction. That'd be the Washington Nationals. They take it to the New York Mets. 16-4 the final. We saw absolutely atrocious Steven Matz in this one. He gives up 8 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings. He gives you a lot of solid starts, and then he'll give you one of these, and he gave up 3 home runs in the process. You wound up having another home run come off Chasen Shreve. He gave up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings. And then even worse, Paul Sewald gives up 6 runs in 2/3 of an inning for the Washington Nationals, being able to go deep in this one. How about Asdrubal Cabrera twice, his 2nd and 3rd of the year. Trey Turner down for what gets his 2nd, and then you had Mr. Juan Soto being able to get his 2nd home run of the season as well. As for the Washington Nationals, Patrick Corbin, a good start. He gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned over the course of 6 innings. Wander, I swear, oh, this guy sucks. He gave up another run, but it was in 2 innings, so it could have been worse. And Sean Doolittle did very little to close the door, but he Bradley wound up giving up 1 run over the course of an inning, and with a 13-run lead, it made things very easy, and he wound up giving up a home run to Brandon Nimmo. That was the second of the campaign. That's really all that you could say positively for the New York Mets in this one. All that you could say positively for the Boston Red Sox is that they didn't give up double digits. They wind up losing to the Tampa Bay Rays by a count of 8-7. The Rays probably needed this because the Boston Red Sox went with a bullpen game, and it didn't necessarily go as planned. Colton Brewer wound up going the longest of any of these guys. He gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 3 innings. Ryan Brazier wound up getting the start in this one. And then from there, you wound up having Jeffrey Springs come out of the bullpen. He gave up 3 runs, and he recorded 4 outs. That was not great. Dylan Covey gave a scoreless inning, which is good. And for the Boston Red Sox, the power was there for this team. You had J.D. Martinez being able to get his first home run of the season that came off of Ryan Yarbrough, who got shelled in this game. He winds up going 4 1/3 innings. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned, but the bullpen from there was able to hold down the 4 2/3 innings. They wind up giving up 3 runs. Peter Fairbanks wound up giving up 2 of them, and then Chaz Rowe gave up another one. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, all of a sudden you've got some offense getting going for this team. They have now played 3 out of their last 4 games to the over, so they are trending a little bit more in that direction, and they didn't get any home runs, and they wound up leaving 13 men on base, but 16 hits. Certainly a sign of life for the Tampa Bay Rays offense. The Arizona Diamondbacks have not had a lot of signs of life with their offense, but they take it to the Colorado Rockies by a count of 12-8. They're able to get this one, and that's with Robbie Ray just being absolutely terrible in this game. He winds up going 3 2/3 innings. He gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. Now is a 10.59 ERA. Bullpen from there, though. 5 1/3 innings, they give up 2 runs. Andrew Chafin winds up giving up a run, and then you wound up having Alex Young give up a run as well, but Archie Bradley was able to close the door in this one. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, it wasn't due to a lot of power. Cole Calhoun had a leadoff home run, his 4th of the season. That was the only home run that they wound up getting in this game for the Colorado Rockies. You wound up having Chris Owings being able to get his 2nd home run of the year, and Trevor Story in the first wound up getting his 6th. But how about a combined 32 hits in this game for the Rockies? John Gray, well, he was seeing 55 shades of his own gray. He wound up getting 10 outs, and he gave up 8 runs, all of which were earned. And then from there, the bullpen wasn't necessarily lights out. Yancy Almonte winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of an inning, and James Pazos winds up giving up a run out of the bullpen as well. So that certainly was not ideal. Speaking of not ideal, the Oakland A's wound up having a 9-4 lead against the LA Angels, and then it completely evaporated, and the LA Angels wind up getting in this one a 10-9 win. For the Oakland A's, Matt Chapman was able to go deep twice in this one in the first 3 innings. Those were both off of Julio Teheran, and those were his 5th and 6th of the season as Mr. Teheran. He goes 2 innings, and he gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. Matt Andriese tried to provide some long relief, and it wasn't necessarily relieving. He gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 2 innings. But then from there, you wound up having the bullpen being able to lock in. Noah Ramirez, along with Kenyon Middleton, were able to give 3 scoreless innings. Felix Pena and then Ty Buttery were able to do a good job as well with a scoreless inning apiece. And then for the LA Angels, Mike Trout now has 6 home runs over the last 7 days since coming off paternity leave. His 6th and 7th of the year. Anthony Rendon was able to get his 2nd home run, and then Shohei Ohtani is 4th. Absolutely huge for an LA Angels team that had been just up and down with the bats all year long. Sean Manaea, he looks completely lost right now. He now has a 9 ERA. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 2 2/3 innings. And the bullpen for the Oakland A's that had been pretty solid have let him down in this one. Lou Trevino gives up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings. J.B. Wendelkirk, he winds up giving up 3 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning, and Yasmero Petit gives up a run as well. So that was not necessarily terrific. And for the Oakland A's, all of a sudden, they've been able to score a couple runs themselves. They have now played 4 out of their last 6 games to the over. And if you're looking a little bit deeper, 5 out of their last 8 games to the over. Meanwhile, for the LA Angels, this is a bunch that now they've played each of their last 2 games to the over as well. If you're looking at the San Francisco Giants, they were able to get a little bit more offense in this game against the Houston Astros, but came a little bit too late. They wind up losing to the Astros by a 6-4. They wind up playing 3 runs in the 9th inning and actually sent the go-ahead run to the plate, but it was just a little bit too late as Lance McCullers, an absolutely terrific start for the Houston Astros. 7 innings of 1-hit baseball, and then from there, Josh James tried to light this game on fire. He winds up giving up 4 runs in 1 inning. Ryan Presley had to come in and put out the fire, and for the Houston Astros, Martin Maldonado was able to get his first home run of the season for the San Francisco Francisco Giants. Logan Webb just wasn't able to do the job in this one, but he wasn't helped out by his friends. You wound up having 3 errors in this game from the San Francisco Giants, including 2 from Donovan Solano, who's still hitting well above a 400, but for Logan Webb, he winds up giving up 5 runs, but only 2 of which were earned over the course of 3 and a third innings. From there, you wound up having Connor Menez go 2 2/3 innings. He winds up giving up a run, but those errors really put this team behind the 8 ball. But good news for the San Francisco Giants. Austin Slater winds up getting his 3rd home run of the campaign. And for the Houston Astros, this is a team that they've been a little bit all over the place when it comes to their totals, but they have wound up playing in, I believe it is their last 7 games, just 2 unders. You wound up having a push, and the rest of the games wound up going over. A game that certainly did not wind up going over, that'd be the Padres and the Dodgers game. Despite the fact that you wound up having a pitching change with Garrett Richards not starting at Luis Perdomo going for the Padres, they were still able to get the 2-1 win. For Perdomo, he winds up giving up a run in an inning, but then Matt Stram, Cal Quantrill, Craig Saman, Emilio Pagan, and Drew Pomeranz, they give up a combined 2 hits in 8 innings. For the Padres, they were able to get a home run off the bat of Austin Hedges that came off of Justin May's first of the campaign. And for May, he certainly did a solid job in this one. He goes 6 innings, he gives up 2 runs. From there, you got Caleb Ferguson, Blake Tryon, and Scott Alexander being able to bridge the gap. And then when you take a look at the LA Dodgers, 1 of 8 with men in scoring position, so they were not able to take advantage of those opportunities, and that's putting it very politely. And the Brewers have just not been able to take advantage of opportunities in general. The Minnesota Twins wind up taking them down by a count of 4-2. For the Milwaukee Brewers, they wind up going 0 of 8 with runners in scoring position. In this one, Adrian Hauser, he winds up giving up a grand slam, which really cost the team. He goes 5 innings, giving up 4 runs. Now, you got to give it up to Freddie Peralta. He gets 8 strikeouts in 4 innings of relief, gives up 1 hit, no earned runs against the Minnesota Twins lineup that certainly has been a little bit cold recently, but they were able to get a grand slam out of Eddie Rosario. That is his 4th of the campaign, and Randy Dobnak continues to be terrific. 5 innings pitch, he gives up 1 run, 0.90 ERA, and then from there, you wind up having a quadrant of guys come in the game. You had Sergio Romo give up a run out of the bullpen, but from there you had Taylor Rogers along with Ty Duffy and Trevor May being able to do their job. They all provide a scoreless inning. And for the Minnesota Twins, they also wind up leaving 6 men on base, and they're a team that all of a sudden has been playing a whole bunch of unders recently. They have now played in their last 6 games, 4 of them to the under, and if you're taking a look back a little bit more, I believe that they have now played 9 out of their last 14 games to the under. So the Minnesota Twins have been hot with that regard, and this whole podcast hopefully is a little bit hot, so that's a little bit of a roundup as to everything that we saw from Major League Baseball on Monday. Now let's get an Astros perspective on things. It's a team that we are all buzzing about for various reasons. Patrick Creighton, he works out there in the city of Houston. He does a great job with ESPN 97.5 show Late Hits. We're going to be talking to him about the Houston Astros, what we've all seen from this season, and just the Cardinals fiasco in general. That's on the other side right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Craig Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we are back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. It is great to be joined by our next guest. This is someone that you can hear on ESPN 97.5 out there in the great city of Houston, Texas. He is on from 7 to 9 p.m. Central, weeknights Monday through Friday. If you're looking Pacific time, that is 5 to 7. That is a show that is called Late Hits. It is very terrific, and this is a man that has joined me quite a few times. And he also does some play-by-play work for the Sugarland Skeeters. So this is a man that does a little bit of everything, as it is Patrick Creighton joining me right here on the podcast. And you can follow him on Twitter at PCreighton1. Patrick, always great to have you aboard. How are you?
My pleasure to join you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing terrific. And I wish I could say the same for the Houston Astros. They wound up entering into Monday's game with a record of 6-9. That is not necessarily where you want to be. And what we've noticed is that the Astros lineup just has not necessarily been there. You saw Jose Altuve along with Alex Bregman enter into Monday's game, both hitting at 225 or lower. Yoli Gurriel has been solid along with Carlos Correa and Michael Brantley, but I do think that the loss of George Springer is really hurting this team, and just in general, this just doesn't have the same feel of the lineup that it did from the 2019 season.
Well, look, George, even before he got hurt, he was not hitting well. I believe he was riding the interstate. Bregman finally getting over that hump, and Altuve struggled in the early going. But, Yordan Alvarez, the Rookie of the Year, hasn't taken a single at bat yet. The lineup hasn't performed the way that you would expect the Astros lineup to for them. That being said, going into the weekend, they were number 1 in runs per game. And what are they now? Number 5 in runs per game. They were 4th in average and 1st in on base. Even without, the 3 guys at the top of the order hitting, and without their cleanup hitter who hasn't played a game yet, this team is still scoring 5+ runs on average per game. They just played 3 in Oakland where they scored 2 runs every game. So, everybody wants to, look, they're not hitting. They're, the dog pile on the Astros. Oh, they don't know what's coming. They can't hit. No, they had a bad series. In the normal scheme of things, you have a bad 3-game series next. Because the season is shorter, everything is over scrutinized. But in the grand scheme of things, you have to be out of your mind if you think Jose Altuve is going to hit 182 the whole season. Or if you think Alex Bregman's going to hit 219. These guys are going to hit. And while they're cold right now, what that means, as we've learned in baseball, there is a peak for every valley. They're going to have a hot streak. And when those 3 guys are hot, the Astros are going to score a zillion runs and they're going to win a bunch of games. And it happens every year. It's not like the Astros don't have stretches. I mean, if you remember when the Astros won the World Series, George Springer was like 0 for 17 going into the World Series. And then he was World Series MVP. So we've seen Georgie go through significant lulls and then be unbelievably unconsciously hot. Bregman is a guy who's known for getting off to slow starts and then breaking later in the season. Altuve got off to a slow start last year. I'm not worried about those guys not hitting. So while the offense might not be clicking on all cylinders right now, there's still, 6-7 weeks of baseball left? In a season where 16 teams are going to make the postseason, the number one thing for the Astros is get it figured out, get as healthy as possible, be hot at the end of September going into the playoffs.
And certainly they were able to get right against the San Francisco Giants on Monday, as we do have Patrick Creighton joining me on the podcast. And something else that obviously is being pointed out by a lot of people is, I think probably the bigger concern, the fact that the pitching rotation just is not the same. Lance McCullers was able to do a solid job on Monday. He wound up having a rough start against the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's back in the fold. And Zach Greinke looked much better in his start against the Oakland A's, but obviously losing Justin Verlander, who we thought might be lost prior to the season, and then with the pandemic, he wound up starting opening day. It sounds like it's going to be a battle for him as to whether or not he's going to be able to pitch down the stretch. That certainly is not helping out this team, and we've just seen it with the bullpen. Guys are going down like flies. It certainly has been a little bit of an issue with the Houston Astros. What do you make of this? Because you've got Belak, who's going to be going for this team on Tuesday. He's actually someone that wound up posting a very nice start against the Arizona Diamondbacks in that series. I actually do like what I've seen out of him, along with Christian Javier. But when you take a look at this team in general, it's just not the faces that you remember from a few years ago in this pitching rotation.
No, they got to rely on a lot of kids. And a lot of kids are going to cut their teeth this year. And it's kind of going to set this team up for next year of knowing who they can trust and who they can't. Christian Javier had 2 good starts, and then he got beat up in his last start. It was his 3rd start. He pitched in Double-A last year for the most of the season. He doesn't throw particularly hard. He relies on deception. And he's a guy who in the minors had a really high strikeout and swing and miss rate, despite the fact he doesn't have, an electric fastball. So I'm interested to see how he bounces back. I don't think, anytime a young pitcher making his 3rd start gets beat up a little bit, that it's, time to go yell the sky is falling. What's more disturbing, obviously, is the stuff with Verlander. He basically is in the same position that Lance McCullers was in, late in 2018, which is, he's probably looking at a situation where he needs to have surgery. It's going to be an inevitability. There is going to be this idea of, all right, well, can you pitch through some of this pain? Because you saw him make the first start of the season. He certainly didn't look hurt. I mean, he was throwing BBs. His breaking stuff was sharp. He had command. He didn't look like a guy who was dealing with the potential UCL injury. And when you hear forearm strain, that's just baseball code for UCL injury. With Verlander, it's going to be much like it was with McCullers. First let's get the pain and the swelling to calm down. Then let's see if we can strengthen up the muscles around it. Then it's how much pain tolerance do you have? Can you throw your stuff? Can you throw your fastball? Can you throw your breaking pitches and not be in so much pain that you can't hurt it? It's the same surgery with a partial tear or a full tear. So it's the same surgery. It's the same recovery time. If you blow it out all the way, it's not like you're making it worse. The part that's worse is, how long it takes you to recover. TJ surgery is a full calendar year. And if you have that surgery in August and it's a full calendar year, you're probably not pitching the next year anyway. So for him, do I have the surgery now? Do I give it a couple of weeks and then see if I can pitch through pain? Justin Verlander, if he needs Tommy John surgery, he's losing next season no matter what. I understand why he's taking the wait and see approach to it, because maybe he can get something of the season. But he is definitely a guy the Astros are going to have to replace in 2021 because he's not going to pitch. Now, with the other issue they have is Jose Urquidy only picked up a baseball for the first time this weekend. And that's a guy they were counting on to be in their rotation, to give innings. I thought it would be 3 to 4 weeks, from the start of the season till he would be ready. And now it's looking more like he won't be ready until September, because they need time for him to ramp up, get stretched out, be able to be in the rotation. And if he just picked up a baseball for the first time this weekend, he's probably 4 weeks away. The bullpen, with the number of injuries, Joe Smith opted out, but everybody else in that bullpen has gone down with injuries. They are Ryan Presley and rookies. Everyone in the pen is a rookie other than Ryan Presley. And some of these guys have been impressive, and some of these guys, Cy Snead, not so much. And I'm pretty sure that after Dusty has given Cy Snead the ball in a couple of big spots and he's failed, he probably won't see Cy Snead in a high leverage spot again. But there's a lot of kids who are going to be leaned on to pitch big innings because Brad Peacock is out. And now Roberto Osuna is out. Josh James has walked, entire villages worth of people in an inning. So they're going to be depending on these young kids to see, okay, who can step up, who's ready. These are the guys who are going to cut their teeth this year. They're going to show whether or not they belong on the team next year and how much money the team is going to need to spend. One of the interesting things about the Osuna injury is Osuna was supposed to make $10 million this year and then go to arbitration. In arbitration, he was probably going to make $14 to $15 million. The Astros obviously aren't going to go to arbitration with him now because he's not going to pitch next season. Well, that's $15 million they didn't have that now they do. Verlander's scheduled to make $33 million next year. And if we go with common sense, injury insurance on Verlander's contract should cover at least 80% of that contract. Well, that's $26.5 million. The Astros are going to have $40 million cash available next season to try to get another pitcher and get, some more bullpen help that they did not have 2 months ago. The downside, they are losing 2 big pitchers. The good side, they're going to have a lot of cash to go out and try to replace those guys. In Verlander, obviously, they'd have another year of after that. And Osuna, after next season, are they able to bring him back on a 1-year, prove it, low dollars, low risk, high reward type of deal? They're going to have options. This year, though, they've got to get through a lot of these kids. And you know what? For the most part, the kids have held their own.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's been nice to see Andre Scrub being able to step up. Humberto Castellanos, someone that I legitimately had never heard of until this year, he was able to do a good job in some high leverage spots as well. As we do have Patrick Creighton joining me on the podcast. And I know, much like myself, you've been looking at some of these just early season results. What has really stood out to you? Because what I thought coming into the season was that the hitters were going to be out in front of the pitchers. And if you're looking from a Vegas perspective, the under has been hitting at a very high rate when it comes to baseball. And what I noticed is that with a lot of these games, you just have one big inning where it feels like over half the runs in that game are generated there. And these teams, whenever they get these bases loaded situations, they either cash in and they cash in big, or they just squander them, because I've seen more often than ever this year, these teams just get the bases loaded with one out and they come away empty-handed.
It's funny you mention that, because that kind of plays into the extra innings rule with the guy on second base. The Astros, for a team that scores as many runs per game as they do, they suck at extra innings. I mean, they can't get the run home to save their lives, and they're not the only team. For some reason, a lot of these high analytics teams, they are so averse to small ball. They just refuse to bunt. They refuse to hit the ball on the ground the other way and advance runners. They wind up losing games as a result. If you are the home team and you are in extras and you have held the line in the top of the 10th and you are not bunting or hitting the ball on the ground the other way to advance the runner to play small ball to get that win and go home in the 10th inning, you're doing it wrong. And that guy doesn't know how to bunt. Well, then he knows how to hit the ball on the ground to the other side, doesn't he? The lack of situational awareness, the lack of fundamental baseball IQ in the game right now is freaking staggering. You don't know how to just advance base runners. Simple, basic stuff. Productive outs. 2 strikes. All you got to do is roll one over to second base. Nope. Swinging from my heel, swinging as hard as I can, and giving everybody a giant gust of wind as I miss this pitch by 5 feet. I can't get with it. If I saw a guy swing like that, he wouldn't play for a week.
Patrick, I am right there with you. It has been absolutely mind-blowing. It's like, how with a man on second do we have some of these extra inning games going to the 12th and 13th inning? It's just like, what in the heck is going on there? And with some of these standings, I'm just here like, what the heck is going on here? The Miami COVID Marlins are right now leading the NL East. The Detroit Tigers, somehow, some way, they're leading the AL Central right now. Obviously, some strange things can happen in a condensed season. We saw with the Seattle Mariners in 2019. They wind up getting off to a 13-2 start. And as we remember, they were absolutely terrible. But what I think we're seeing right now is that some of these teams that are the prohibitive favorites, they're just not coming out with that fight sometimes that you'd think. I do think that the lack of fans has a little bit of something to do with it.
It probably does. Also, the fact that you had about 40% of a spring training has something to do with it, too. Especially like veteran pitchers. You mentioned Zach Greinke. You had to know Greinke's first start was going to be lousy because he wasn't ready. He's 38 years old. He knows his body. He knows how long it takes him to get ready. He knows what his routine is. None of that is changing for him. He's not going to risk arm injury because, the season's shorter. He's still on his schedule. After his first game, I said, in about 2 weeks, he'll be fine. Funny, apparently what he had said the next day was, give me 2 more starts and I'll be fine. And sure enough, his last outing, he certainly pitched a lot better. He's pitched better since then. He knows himself. If you're an older pitcher, you've got to protect yourself because baseball is not going to protect you. We are seeing so many pitchers go down with arm injuries, elbow injuries, shoulder injuries because they didn't have the proper time to get ready. They're coming out. They're trying to fire 96 miles an hour and go as deep into the game as they can. But the competitiveness in them is overriding the intelligence in them. And we're seeing a lot of guys get injured. Look, they didn't plan it out. They wanted to spend more time arguing between each other, the players union and management, the owners. They wanted to bicker and bicker and bicker that they wound up with this spring training. And a lot of guys just weren't ready. For all the people who want to hoot and holler, oh, look, the Astros and Altuve, he doesn't know what's coming. He's not hitting. Well, have you looked to see what Cody Bellinger's hitting? Have you looked to see Christian Yelich has been red hot for the last 4 days. Have you looked to see what he's hitting? There are a lot of guys who aren't hitting.
Gleyber Torres.
Again, they haven't had the opportunity to find their swing yet. And when they do, they're going to be really hot. As much as everyone wants to go, it's only 60 games. Every single game now is super, super important. It's still just as important as every other game. And everybody plays the same number of games. And the teams that are hot now are not going to be hot in 6 weeks. And the teams that are cold now might be. Nobody stays hot for 3 months. What you see right now is not indicative of what you're going to see at the end of September. And I know that in the football crazy media that we live in, where every game is live and die, and a 5-game losing streak probably ends your season. Even in a 60-game baseball season, a 5-game losing streak does not end your season. It's a hiccup. The difference between baseball and all the other sports, not as much as it normally is because of the 60-game schedule, but it's not like basketball where you're going to have a handful of teams that are going to lose 12 games. You don't have the teams who are going to win 60 plus. Nobody in baseball this year is going to win 48 games. This idea of this team's in trouble, this team's not, we're at the quarter mark. If you are 10 games under, you're in trouble. If you're 3 games under, you're probably 3 games out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you make. So the Pittsburgh Pirates, certainly in trouble, but nobody thought that the Pittsburgh Pirates were probably going to be in the hunt anyway. The one season win total I gave out on this podcast was Pirates under 25 wins. So far, we are doing good there, as we do have Patrick Creighton joining me on the podcast. But I will say one thing. I know you said that everyone's going to be playing 60 games. Obviously, what is coming to mind right now is the St. Louis Cardinals situation. This is a team that they haven't played in a week and a half. We know that season win percentage has come into play when you had the when you had the shortened 1981 season. That was due to strike. And I do think that is a very sticky situation because if the Cardinals are going to get to 60 games, they're going to need to play every single day in which they are eligible to and throw in there at minimum 4 doubleheaders as well. Obviously, 7-inning doubleheaders. But I think that that's the one thing that baseball needs to overcome. Just finding a way to get the Cardinals out there on the field and quit having guys test positive for COVID-19.
No, they've got a real problem with the Cardinals right now. Because even the Marlins are up to 8 games, 9 games?
10 games.
And the Cardinals have played 5 games. The fact that they are so far behind, there are teams that have played 15 games. The Cardinals have played 5. You're talking about playing like 3 weeks worth of doubleheaders. Even with the expanded rosters, nobody's pitching staff can handle that much work. Even if you're cutting them to 7-inning games, nobody can handle that many doubleheaders on top of each other. So they've got a real problem with the Cardinals, and I would tell you it's probably going to sink the Cardinals season. There is no way they're going to be able to play that many doubleheaders and have it not negatively impact their winning percentage. Nobody can play that many doubleheaders in a row and, avoid the injuries, be able to play at their best. They're just going to be beat up. They're going to be worn down. This isn't an issue that they have to deal with. They've got to get the Cardinals back on the field. If that means the Cardinals are basically playing their entire taxi squad, they've got to get them back on the field. And it sucks. It's not fair to, Cardinals and Cardinals fans, but this was the risk they knew was involved. If you can't restart the season and then as soon as COVID hits, say, oh, okay, we're done. You knew you were going to have to play through some of these type of scenarios, and the team-wide outbreak had to be a discussed topic of what are you going to do. That's why you were going to have this 60-man expanded roster so that you could move guys on and off. And realistically, if you had a COVID outbreak, you could swap guys on and off the active roster for COVID, because if a guy tests positive, he's going to sit 2 weeks and all that. They got to get the Cardinals back on the field. The Marlins made a lot of moves. They went and signed a bunch of people. They got some guys out of the Constellation League that I'm doing play-by-play for. Well, the Cardinals are going to have to do the same thing. They're going to have to replenish their roster. They're going to have to play some kids. They got to get them back on the field for the integrity of the season. You mentioned 81. It's one thing when you got, like, this team played 3 less games than the other. You can't have a team playing 10 to 11 less games than other teams. It throws off the competitive integrity of the league. They've got to get the Cardinals back on the field.
I'm right there with you, Patrick. It certainly is a big issue, but something that is not an issue, you providing us with absolutely terrific content on your show, Late Hits. You can hear that on ESPN 97.5, 7 to 9 p.m. Central weekdays. So let the good people at home know what you're doing in general. And you did mention the fact that you are doing some play-by-play as well for independent baseball, the Sugarland Skeeters, which, if you listen to this podcast, you know a man that was on that roster to begin the year, Fernando Rodney, someone that has actually cost us quite a bit of money throughout the years with regards to him being a reliever. But with that said, you certainly are a man that you do a variety of different things. So let the good people at home just know where they're able to follow you on social media and just what you're working on in general.
All right, so you can follow me on Twitter at PCreighton1. You can also follow the show at Late Hitters. We're on 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, Monday to Friday, ESPN 97.5. You can get us on the ESPN 97.5 Houston app, ESPN975.com, twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5. And if you check out SugarlandSkeeters.com, you can see the Constellation Energy League, which has 4 teams in it. It's a league that is the brainchild of the Skeeters ownership management and should be Hall of Famer Roger Clemens. Roger's son, Kobe, manages one team that his sons, Cody and Casey, actually play on. So that's one of the 4 teams that are in the league, and I do play-by-play for that league. The links to get those games live are at the SugarlandSkeeters.com website. You can check out that page for info on the league and stats and players. There's been about 6 or 7 players so far from that league who have either been signed by major league teams, had their contracts purchased, or were guys who were low minors who had permission to play in the league from their big league club and have now been recalled to join their expanded roster team. So there are guys in this league who are probably going to be on major league rosters in the next week or so. There's not a lot of other leagues out there playing. Over the weekend, there were scouts from the Pirates, the Royals, 2 scouts from the KBO, and 1 scout from the Japanese League, all out there checking guys out. It's pretty good baseball. SugarlandSkeeters.com.
And I do have to ask you one more question. I checked my contract, and I have to ask you, how did Fernando Rodney look in his couple games out there in the league?
Not ready. He only pitched 1 game. Yeah, he got out of the inning. He didn't give any runs, but you could tell he wasn't ready. He wasn't sharp. That's why he's currently pitching with the Astros extended training team in Corpus Christi. I figured it was going to take him a couple of weeks to get up to snuff to the major league level. The Astros actually also signed Chase DeYoung, who's had a cup of coffee in MLB and has been around the minors for a while. DeYoung was actually pitching pretty well in the Constellation League. He is on their taxi squad right now. He was actually with the team in Oakland. He's with them right now in San Fran. He's on their taxi squad. I would not be surprised if he's not on the active roster fairly
And I
soon.
can tell you, everyone that listens to this podcast probably going to have a whole lot more faith in DeYoung than Mr. Fernando Rodney, but something that I always have faith in, Patrick providing absolutely great content, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to Patrick Creighton for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you a sign total on every game on Tuesday's MLB Betting Board as we touch them all.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we are back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Big thanks to Patrick Creighton, our buddy out there with 97.5 ESPN in Houston, for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you a sign total on every game on the Tuesday MLB Betting Board out here in Las Vegas, and a little something I like to call Touch 'em all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at @Jr_D1. We do have a couple games that are presently off the board, so we are going to be doing our best to maneuver through that, and as per usual, going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. That begins with 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. You've got the Miami Marlins, and they are hitting the road, and they're going to be facing off against their Toronto Blue Jays, and as we know, this game is not going to be played in Toronto, but rather in the city of Buffalo, New York. Eliezer Hernandez is going to be going for the Miami Marlins. Meanwhile, Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to be on the bump for the Toronto Blue Jays. The total on this game is anywhere between 8 and 8.5. If you're looking at the 8s, the over is anywhere between -115 and -120. The under is anywhere between even and -105. On the 8.5s, pretty much you just flip it. Over is anywhere between even and -105, and the under is anywhere between -115 and -120. If you're taking a look at the Miami COVID Marlins in this spot, you're certainly going to be getting a plus price. As we're seeing it right now, the Miami Marlins are anywhere between, I would say, about plus 155 and plus 160-ish underdogs. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Blue Jays, anywhere between -165 and seeing as high as -175 as well. And this is a Toronto Blue Jays team that they certainly have had their ups and their downs so far this year. They're scoring 3 runs per game, which is dead last out there in the major leagues, which is why this is my New York Post play of the day. And for Eliezer Hernandez, he wasn't necessarily able to find it at the big league level during the 2019 season, but at the minor league level, he was absolutely terrific. 9 starts, he had a 1.12 ERA, did not give up a single home run. Meanwhile, in the major leagues, he wound up giving up a little bit over 2 home runs per 9 innings, but in his first start of 2020, I recognize that it's against the Baltimore Orioles, but still did a very good job there. He winds up going 4 1/3 innings of scoreless baseball, and the Miami Marlins bullpen has not necessarily been terrible. I will say that if you're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen, it certainly hurts that Ken Giles is currently out with an injury, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, this is a bunch that they're just not getting a lot of batting average out of guys like Kevon Biggio along with Vlad Guerrero Jr. These guys are guys that you'd expect to get on base a little bit more. They're both hitting below a 240. Teoscar Hernandez has been hitting right around a 300 though, along with Lourdes Gurriel. He's been in and out of the fold really the last 2 years for this team, but they've been doing a solid job, and for Hernandez, he's been able to give this team 4 home runs, but then you've got guys like Danny Jansen and company. They're not necessarily doing the best of jobs of getting on base. And for the Miami Marlins, this team is just a hot mess to say the least. I will say Jesus Aguilar has been doing a very good job for this team. He's already given them quite a few home runs. He's done a very solid job of being able to get on base, so that is something that you're able to hang your hat on. But then when you take a look at the rest of the lineup, Brett Anderson has been doing an okay job of being able to give this team a couple base knocks. You've got Jonathan VR, who is a very well-traveled man at this point. He's been hitting right around the Mendoza line, which is 200. John Birdie's hitting below at 200. You've also got guys like Ryan LaVarnway that are at the catcher spot. You got to think that it's going to be a little bit cold there. I certainly do think that the Toronto Blue Jays should be able to get the job done, especially with Hyun-Jin Ryu giving up 1.2 walks per 9 innings during the 2019 season. He certainly got hit hard in his first couple starts of the season, but I think that he's doing a good job of being able to bounce back from that. And I do think that this is going to be a very good spot for him to just really mow down a Miami Marlins lineup that is shorthanded, and that's putting it very politely. So for that reason, I'm going to be going with the total under, which is the play that I gave out for the New York Post. So if you're looking for a little bit more information, it is in there, and I'm also going to be riding with the money line of the Toronto Blue Jays. We move on to 9:53, 9:54 on the betting board. Cincinnati Reds. We are on to Cincinnati, and they're going to be playing against the Kansas City Royals. Chris with a K, Bubic is going to be going for the Royals. Meanwhile, Luis Castillo is going to be going for the Cincinnati Reds. If you're looking at this total, it is 9. The under is anywhere between -115 to -120. The over is anywhere between even to -105. If you're looking at the Reds, you're going to be finding them anywhere between -180 and I'm seeing as high as -$2. That means that the Kansas City Royals, at your peak, you're going to be finding them right around a +175-ish, as low as about a +160. And I do think that this is a very good spot for the Cincinnati Reds. They wound up just getting completely blanketed in that last game of the series against the Milwaukee Brewers, but I do think that they're going to be able to bounce back, and they're going to have a nice win here. You've got to love what Nick Castellanos has been able to do for this team. 7 home runs already so far this year. He's been hitting well above a 300. Mike Moustakas has been in the fold. That has really hurt this team. You've got Joey Votto, who's missed a couple games, and he's only hitting a $196. You don't expect that from him, but you've been able to get Shogo Akiyama going. He's hitting more around a 240 right now. Eugenio Suarez was able to have a home run in that series against the Milwaukee Brewers. You gotta think that he's going to be able to hit better than the $132 that he is right now. Tucker Barnhart hitting a $167. I think that he's going to be able to pull that up. And then when you take a look at Mr. Bubic, this is someone that was pitching for Stanford, I believe, during the 2018 campaign. Now, the Royals have had some good luck with some of these younger starters, but in 2 starts so far this year, he's went a grand total of 10 innings. He's wound up giving up a home run in the process. He is someone that can get a little bit reckless with the walks. He's already given out 3 so far this year, and for Luis Castillo, it certainly has been a little bit of a rough start to the year. He's much better at home than he is on the road, though. You take a look at what he's done so far this year: 17 innings, 26 strikeouts. What's been critical for him is the 6 walks. That is not necessarily what you'd like to see, but with the Kansas City Royals, this is a team that year in and year out, they're towards the bottom of the league when it comes to being able to draw walks, and you've got a couple guys for the Kansas City Royals like Josh Staumont that are currently on the injured list along with Ryan O'Hearn, so that is not going to be able to help out this bunch. Now, you've got to love what Jorge Soler has been able to do. He wound up leading the American League in home runs during the 2019 campaign, sitting right around at 286 on base of a 370. Bubba Starlin has been able to give this team a little bit of something whenever he's been out there, but Brett Phillips has really been the guy that has been able to emerge. 280 batting average here. Salvador Perez has come back from missing the entire 2019 campaign. He's looked very good, and for the Cincinnati Reds, I do think that they're going to be able to bust out here. I do think that Luis Castillo is going to give up a couple runs, and with the Royals, they've been able to do a solid job of the bullpen with guys like Greg Holland, Trevor Rosenthal and company, but I think that there's really going to be a big fall off here, and I think that the Reds are going to wind up giving up a couple runs as well. I think that this is a good spot for these offenses in a little bit more of a hitter-friendly ballpark in Great American to be able to get some runs up on the board, and I think that Luis Castillo is certainly going to give a better start here than Bubic, so I'm going to be looking at the run line of the Reds. You're finding it right around even money at a lot of spots. You might be finding a couple -105s. You might be able to find a +105, but we're going to be riding with that run line, and we're going to be going with this total over as well. 955, 956 on the betting board is up next. The Atlanta Braves are going to be hitting the road to face off against the New York Yankees. It is going to be Jordan Montgomery who's going to be going for the New York Yankees. Meanwhile, Touki Toussaint is going to be going for the Atlanta Braves. Your total on this game is 10. The over and under are both at -110, and this game presently is now off the board, as this is one in which we had J. Happ literally 15 minutes before I recorded this. You were finding the New York Yankees right in the neighborhood of about a -155-ish favorite, with the Braves more around +145-ish, but this game is going to be recalibrated. I can't think that there's going to be much of an adjustment when it comes to Montgomery going instead of J. Happ. I actually like the Yankees a little bit more with Montgomery going rather than J. Happ, because Happ has been hapless. He was giving up like over 2 home runs per 9 innings. He has been absolutely terrible, but regardless of whether you get Montgomery or J. Happ, I'm going to be looking at the Atlanta Braves and Touki Toussaint. With Toussaint, certainly got off to a little bit of a rough start to the year. He wound up making a long relief appearance against the Atlanta Braves. It didn't go as planned. That's why he's currently got a 6.08 ERA, and he certainly has a little bit of a walks issue. During the 2019 season, he wound up having a 1.7K to walk rate. That is not necessarily what you want to see, but this is someone that he does a very good job of being able to get you some punch outs, because he wound up having during the 2019 campaign more around like 10.5-ish strikeouts per 9 innings. He's got some good raw stuff, and then with Jordan Montgomery, this is someone that just hasn't started consistently in a few years. During the 2018 season, he wound up going down with an injury after he had a very promising 2017 campaign, and he's really just been trying to build his way up ever since then. He wound up having a very good start against the Boston Red Sox his first time out, 5 2/3 innings, he gives up 1 run. Then in that double dip against the Philadelphia Phillies, he goes 4 innings, he gets completely tattooed for 5 runs, so it is really hard to know what you're going to be able to get out of him, but I do think that the Atlanta Braves are going to be able to bust out with their offense. We saw it despite the fact that they wound up losing to the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday. They were able to hang a touchdown with the extra point in that ninth inning, and you've got Ronald Acuna Jr., who's all of a sudden being able to find a .258 batting average. Now, having Ozzie Albies out of the fold certainly is going to hurt this team, and then you've got Austin Riley, Yohan Camargo, and Enter Enciarte, all not doing a very good job at the plate. They're all hitting a .215 or lower. Nick Markakis has opted back into the year. He wound up having a walk-off home run for the team last week. And Freddie Freeman, after having a slow start to the year, he's been able to do a little bit of something as well. But then you take a look at the New York Yankees. No doubt, you've got a whole bunch of guys that are mashing, including Aaron Judge. He is tied for the league lead with 8 home runs. He certainly has been able to do a whole lot of that. Now the catcher spot, with Gary Sanchez headlining it, it has not necessarily been great, as Sanchez hitting a .103. I know that Eric Kratz wound up getting a start a couple days ago, and Gleyber Torres is hitting a .57. That's not necessarily great, but how about DJ LeMahieu hitting a .400? Gio Urshela, after he wound up having that good 2019 season, he's got an on-base percentage right around .400 so far this year. Brett Gardner has been up and down, but you got to think that he's going to be able to find a little bit of something. I think that this is going to be a higher scoring game, but I think that the Atlanta Braves are going to be able to do a solid job here, despite the fact that they just wound up getting tattooed by the Philadelphia Phillies on Monday. They did save quite a few of their more trustworthy bullpen arms, like a Darren O'Day, guys like this. Shane Green wound up being used, but he only wound up going 6 pitches, so he should be good to go for this one. I think that the Braves should be able to pull it out in what should be a high-scoring game. So for that reason, going to be going with this total over as long as we continue to have something at a 10 or lower, and I'm going to be going with the Atlanta Braves at a plus price. We go to 957, 958 on the betting board. This is the Philadelphia Phillies playing against the Baltimore Orioles. Alex Cobb is going to be going for the O's. Meanwhile, you've got yourself Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler going for the Philadelphia Phillies. Your total on this game is 9. If you're looking at the over, it is anywhere between -105 and -110. Under is anywhere between -110 and -115. If you're taking a look at the Philadelphia Phillies, you're going to be finding them anywhere between -170 and -185. Meanwhile, your plus price here on the O's is anywhere between +170 and +160. And I've certainly got to be taking a look at the Philadelphia Phillies. They just completely obliterated the Atlanta Braves in that game yesterday. Bryce Harper has really been able to find it. He's hitting above a 300. He was able to go deep in the game on Monday. You've also got Didi Gregorius sitting right around 265, but how about JT Realmuto? He's got 4 home runs in the team's last, I believe, 9 days overall. Now you've got a couple guys like Neil Walker, Gene Segura, along with Rhys Hoskins that are hitting below the Mendoza line, but with Hoskins, despite hitting a .188, 435 on base, and then you've got a very nice find in Phil Gosselin. He has got an on-base percentage of 571. He has been very solid for this bunch. Then when you take a look at the flip side, this is an Orioles team that they're able to put bat to ball. Answer Alberto is hitting a little bit above a 300 for this team. Obviously, they wind up having that suspended game on Sunday, so this is actually a team with a very well-rested bullpen. Anthony Santander, along with Renato Nunez, have been able to supply some power, with Nunez hitting 5 home runs so far this year. You've got Rio Ruiz, who's been in and out of the fold, but he's able to hit right around a 250. You got to think that Chance Sisco is going to get some more opportunities as well. On-base percentage of a 565. He's already hit a home run so far this year. I do think that this is a spot in which Zach Wheeler is going to give up a couple runs. You take a look at what he did with the New York Mets during the 2019 campaign, right around a 3.8-ish ERA. He's good at being able to get some swings and misses, but he can give up a little bit of hard contact. And with Alex Cobb, he's looked very solid so far this year. 3 starts, 14 and a third innings. He has given up 6 walks. That is a little bit of an issue. And he's given up 2 home runs. He's been able to do a little bit of a better job than he's been able to in the past. He looks a little bit more like the 2017 Alex Cobb, but I take a look at the matchups that he's had. He winds up facing the Boston Red Sox, Tampa Bay Rays, and then the COVID Miami Marlins. I do think that this is going to be a little bit more of a stiff task, and I do think that the Phillies are going to wind up getting to him. So I'm going to be looking at the Phillies at the run line here. With the Philadelphia Phillies run line, you're going to be finding this one right around even-ish. You might be able to get like a +105 here, but we're going to be taking a look at that, and we are going to be taking this total over as well. We move on to game number 959, 960 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs hit the road to face off against the Cleveland Indians. Adam Blutko is going to be going for the Cleveland Indians. Meanwhile, John Lester is on the pump for the Chicago Cubs. This is currently a game that is listed only at a few books, and right now what I'm seeing is that the total on this game is 8. The over is anywhere between -115 and -120. Under is anywhere between even and -105. Seeing an 8.5 out there as well. That under is -120, and the over is even. And if you're taking a look at this game with the Cubs, you're going to be getting them anywhere between +135 and +120. Meanwhile, if you're you're looking at the Cleveland Indians, anywhere between minus 130 and minus 145. This was supposed to be Mike Clevenger, so you certainly are seeing some floating numbers at this point. But when you take a look at John Lester, he's actually been pretty much as good on the road as he has been at home the last couple years. I do think that makes him a little bit more favorable in this spot with the Cleveland Indians. Obviously, they're dealing with Mike Clevenger along with Zach Plesac winding up going out. And for Mr. Plutko, this is someone that he does a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard for the most part, except when he winds up getting hit hard. I mean, it's just really hard to gauge him because during the 2019 season, he winds up going 7-5, 4.86 ERA, 109 and a third innings. He wound up having a hits per 9 innings of right around 9-ish, and you take a look at the amount of home runs that he winds up getting, he winds up giving up right around 2 home runs per 9 innings. And with that said, he's not necessarily much of a swing and miss guy. He winds up getting 78 strikeouts in 109 and a third innings, but he didn't walk a lot of guys, 26 walks. So, I mean, it's just one of these things where he sort of is going to throw you a bald hit. And with the Chicago Cubs, I do recognize that they were off a couple days because the St. Louis Cardinals, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, dealing with COVID-19, so their weekend series wound up getting canceled. But you got Javi Baez, he's hitting right around a 240-ish. You got to think that that's going to come up. Anthony Rizzo hitting in that same neighborhood, but you've got Wilson Contreras who's been hitting a little bit above a 300. You've also got for the Chicago Cubs a couple nice finds on this team. I like what Jason Kipnis is doing for them. He's been hitting well above a 350. He's been in and out of the fold a little bit this year, but he has certainly been a good addition. You've got Ian Happ and Victor Carantini both hitting above a 290 towards the bottom of the fold. Kyle Schwarber, you got to think is going to be able to pick it up. He's hitting just a 220, but on base of more around a 340. Chris Bryant got off to a terrible start to the year, but he's been able to do a little bit better recently with the Chicago Cubs. This is a team that they're currently dead last in the major leagues when it comes to bullpen ERA because Craig Kimbrell has been absolutely terrible. You've got guys like Kyle Ryan and company. They're not necessarily doing the job. James Norwood is currently on the injured list along with Brad Wiak. So you've got a bunch of guys that are currently in and out of the fold. But you take a look at John Lester. He has been terrific this year. So far in 2 starts, he's won 11 innings. He has given up 1 solo home run, and that's really the only run that he's given up. He's been doing a good job of being able to cut down on the walks as well. He has given up 2 walks over the course of those 2 starts. I do think that he's going to be able to give a good performance against the Cleveland team that, let's face it, they've played 3 overs in 17 games so far this year. I do think that this is a good opportunity for over number 4, but with the Indians, I think that they've scored more than 5 runs just once so far this year. Actually, it was twice. So it's one of these things where they're not generating a lot of offense. Cesar Hernandez is hitting a little bit above 300. Delino DeShields Jr. in limited at-bats is doing so as well. And then you've got Jose Ramirez hitting right around 270. Famio Reyes has been a little bit better as well, but how about Francisco Lindor hitting at 220? Carlos and Domingo Santana both hitting a $188. You've got someone like an Oscar Mercado who's hitting a $122. Mike Freeman has been able to give you right around a 215. You just don't have a lot of bats to be had. I think that the Cubs do wind up giving up a couple runs, but I think that they're going to be able to get to Plutko. I think that they're going to be able to put some big runs up there on the board. So for that reason, we're going to be taking a look at the Chicago Cubs in this spot, and we are going to be taking this total over as well. 961, 962 on the betting board is up next. You've got yourself the Chicago White Sox on the road facing off against the Detroit Tigers. Tyler Alexander is going to be going for Detroit. Meanwhile, Gio Gonzalez is on the bump for the Chicago White Sox. If you're looking at this game, you're going to be finding the White Sox anywhere between minus 104 and minus 110. Meanwhile, with the Tigers, you're going to be finding them at best even money. You're going to be finding them at worst right around a minus 105-ish. And your total on this game is ranging between 9 and 9.5. With the 9.5, the under is right around minus 120, and the over is even. On the 9, the over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120, and the under is anywhere between even and minus 105. And when you take a look at Gio Gonzalez, this is someone that he just doesn't have it anymore. He has made, I believe, 2 starts and a long relief appearance. He's got a 7.71 ERA. He's up there in years, 34 years old. He doesn't necessarily have the best fastball in the world. He actually did post a 3.50 ERA with the Milwaukee Brewers, but you can tell with the Milwaukee Brewers, they really only had him go about 4, sometimes 5 innings, so they really did a good job of coddling him, and that's when you didn't have the short ramp-up time and everything like that. Meanwhile, Tyler Alexander, what's interesting about him is that he's actually been pretty solid for the Detroit Tigers. You take a look at what he did during the 2019 campaign. This is a year in which really you didn't have much good pitching for the Detroit Tigers in general. He wound up having a 4.86 ERA, a 1-4 record, but in his starts, he actually did a pretty solid job because when he was coming in long relief, it was really a horse apiece situation. But you take a look at what he did during the month of September. He wound up going 22 and a third innings. He wound up giving up 8 runs in the process. The hard contact is a little bit rough. He wound up giving up 4 home runs, but the leap that he took from August when he wound up having an ERA north of 8 to September when he had an ERA that was hovering right around 3.5-ish. That is something that I do take a look at. And with the Detroit Tigers, all of a sudden you've got some contact in this lineup because you bring in CJ Cron along Jonathan Scope. They combined for 48 home runs with the Minnesota Twins during the 2019 season. They've come in, and with both of these guys, they're not hitting for the world's greatest batting average, but they've certainly been able to do a solid job. Jacoby Jones has been doing everything, though. How about Jacoby Jones being able to get a very, very cheap inside the park home run, the second one that the White Sox have given up over the matter of 5 days, but he was able to get that. He's hitting well above a 300. That has been huge for this team. Miguel Cabrera needs to pick it up with the batting average a little bit, but by and large, he has been able to do a solid job of being able to provide this team with a little bit of something there as well. And then when you take a look at the flip side for the Chicago White Sox, this is a team that they do a very good job of being able to provide some hard contact as well. You've got Luis Robert, who many people think is going to be a Rookie of the Year contender, and so far so good. He's hitting a little bit above a 300. He's been able to provide some deep balls. You're dealing with the injury to Tim Anderson, and Edwin Encarnacion has been in and out of the fold, but with Lourdes Garcia, who's filling in for Tim Anderson, he's sitting at 271, so he's been able to do his job. Yohan Moncada is sitting right around at 300. You need to get a little bit more out of a guy like a Jose Abreu and Eli Jimenez. Both of these guys have been in a little bit of funk recently, and Noah Mazar is very interesting, hitting a $176, 391 on base with the White Sox. They are a little bit more hampered in the bullpen because Aaron Bummer, who is doing a terrific job, it is a bummer that he is currently out of the fold for this team. He is going to be on the injured list for quite a while. They wound up having to use up Steve Cishek in that game on Monday as well, so no doubt that's going to hurt this team a little bit, but I do think that this is a good spot for the Chicago White Sox to be able to get some runs up there on the board. I do think that Anderson is going to be able to provide 4 or 5 good innings with the Detroit Tigers, but he's never really been lengthened out. I think that from there, the White Sox are going to be able to get into this bullpen and they're going to be able to generate some runs. So for that reason, we are going to be going with the Chicago White Sox in this spot, and we're going to be going with the total over as well. We move on to a game that's currently off the board. 965, 966 on the betting board. Boston Red Sox are going to be playing host to the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays are currently undecided. You've got to think that it's going to be maybe an opener ordeal. I know that Yoni Chirinos is being discussed for this. He's been dealing with his start getting pushed back a little bit, so we are currently unsure on the Tampa Bay Rays. Meanwhile, it's going to be one Martin Perez who's going to be going for the Boston Red Sox. And with the Red Sox, we saw them use a bullpen game on Monday, and the bullpen game didn't necessarily go as planned, so they're going to need some great length here from Martin Perez, and relying upon Martin Perez for length is like going into a wishing well and hoping that the penny that you wind up flipping in there actually grants you a wish. It's just one of those things in which it's not necessarily great. I will say for Martin Perez, he has had a couple of decent starts so far this year, 2-1 record, 3.45 ERA, but we saw him get off to a nice start with the Minnesota Twins during the 2019 season, and then things really fell out of control from there. Last time he faced off against the Tampa Bay Rays was actually on Wednesday on the road. He winds up going 5 innings, did not give up any runs, but he did walk 3. He wound up having to get out of some very, very sticky situations. I think that the Rays are going to be able to handle him this time. With the Tampa Bay Rays, they were certainly able to bust out against the Boston Red Sox on Monday for a big number. And with the Tampa Bay Rays, this is a team that they're not necessarily generating a whole lot of power, but what you like for this team is that all of a sudden the batting average is back for this team. Austin Meadows is someone who's capable of putting up 30-plus home runs in a normal season. He's hitting at 250 after a little bit of a rough start to the year because he was on the injured list with COVID-19. Jose Martinez did not wind up getting the start yesterday, but he wound up making a pinch hitting appearance. He was solid for the Cardinals during the 2019 campaign. William Thomas, along with someone like a Brandon Lau. These guys are hitting at 250 to a 270. Manuel Margot and Hunter Renfroe, who both came over from the San Diego Padres during the offseason, they've been a little bit rough with their batting average, but all of a sudden you're getting something out of Mark Bruseo, who's hitting above a 300. And for the Boston Red Sox, this is a team that they've got a pretty solid lineup. Andrew Benintendi wound up getting the day off on Monday because this guy has just been in an almighty struggle so far. He's hitting below 100. It's been absolutely awful. JD Martinez was in a little bit of a funk as well, but he was able to get a home run on Monday. Alex Verdugo has been a little bit up and down, but you know that he's going to be hitting at some point. Jackie Bradley Jr. has been able to provide this team a little bit of something as well. Certainly a plus defender. His batting average certainly comes and goes. He's hitting at 222 right now, but Kevin Plawecki hitting above a 400 is something that we certainly did not see coming. And then you've got Kevin Pillar, who's been able to do a solid job for this bunch as well. But I do fear that this is something that is starting to come back down. I just don't think that he's going to be able to re-pick up the pieces. But then you take a look at what else you're able to get out of some of these lesser-known guys, like a Christian Vasquez. He's been able to do a terrific job at the catcher spot, has been in and out of the fold for the team, but he's got 4 home runs, does a solid job of being able to get on base. Xander Bogaerts is hitting at 320. Certainly a spot in which, if you're seeing a similar total to what we wound up getting on Monday of a 9, I'm really going to be looking at an over. I do think that we're probably going to be seeing a little bit higher players. So even at 10, I'd probably be contemplating the over in this spot. And I certainly think that if Chirinos winds up going for the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm going to be taking a look at them. We just don't know who's going to be going for the Rays at this point. So check back in the morning on my Twitter feed at @G_41 when we know a set pitcher there. 967, 968 on the betting board is up next. The Milwaukee Brewers are going to be playing us the Minnesota Twins. Undecided is going for the Minnesota Twins. I hear that he's a little bit of a mystery, but he gives the team great heat. Meanwhile, it is going to be Josh Lindblom going for the Milwaukee Brewers because the Twins have no earthly idea who's going to be pitching on Monday. This is a game that is presently off the board. With the Twins, they've been doing a little bit of mixing and matching because they wound up having Homer Bailey go down with an injury. You got to think that Louis Thorpe might be a candidate for this spot. And for Josh Lindblom, it's been a little bit up and down for him so far this year. He hasn't necessarily given the length that you would desire. He's given the team right around 8 2/3 innings in his 2 starts, and he's given up 2 runs in each of them. What I like about him is that the swing and miss stuff certainly is there. 12 punch-outs in 8 2/3 innings. You can tell that because he was away from the MLB for quite a while, guys are not necessarily catching up to him. And I think that that's big because he's got a little bit of an element of surprise. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Twins, this is a team that they wind up getting the win on Monday because of one big swing of the bat. You wind up having Eddie Rosario hit that grand slam, and this is a Minnesota Twins team that they've actually played a bunch of unders recently. 8 out of their last 12 games have went under the total. You do have Mr. Ore Polanco, who's hitting at 281. I just mentioned Eddie Rosario. He was hitting at 211, but he was able to hit that big grand slam for the team on Monday. He's got 4 home runs on the campaign. Max Kepler has been hitting right around at 240-ish, and when you take a look at the lineup, the only player that wound up having an at-bat for the team on Monday and is hitting above a 292 at this point, that would be Nelson Cruz. Marwin Gonzalez has been solid, but Luis Arias, Ahir Adrianza, Byron Buxton, guys that you think would be getting on base a little bit more, they haven't been able to do so. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, this team is just a mess at this point when it comes to their lineup. You take a look at what they trotted out there on Monday. You have 2 guys that saw an at-bat that are currently hitting above a 275. That would be Manny Pino, who wound up making a pinch hitting appearance, and Orlando Arcia, who's currently hitting dead last. I should also throw in there the fact that Mark Mathis is hitting at 313 as well. He also came in as a pinch hitter for the team, but Christian Yelich hitting a $157. Justin Smoke is being smoked at the plate, a $167. You've got Aviseo Garcia hitting at 209, Ben Gamble at 205, Eric Sogard at 211. He's got 388 on base, but he's still hitting at 211. It just has not been good for this team. Omar Narvaez is hitting below the Mendoza line. This is a Milwaukee Brewers team that they can't hit water if they fell out of a boat. I think that Josh Lindblom is going to be able to go 5 strong here. And if the Minnesota Twins throw out there any sort of a competent starter, and we're once again seeing a total that is probably north of 9, I'm going to be taking a look at the under. And when it comes to the starting pitching matchup, that's going to dictate whether I'm going to be looking at the Twins in this spot because we're noticing both offenses are scuffling a little bit. I have some faith in the Minnesota Twins bullpen, but we know that the Milwaukee Brewers also have a good tool in their arsenal. That name is Josh Hader. So check back in the morning on my Twitter feed at GRS41 once we know the set pitching matchup for this one and all that good stuff. 969, 970 on the betting board is up next. Actually, it's not because that was supposed to be the Pittsburgh Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals. That has been postponed. Thank you, COVID-19. 971, 972 on the betting board is up next. The Arizona Diamondbacks hit the road to face off against Colorado Rockies. Kyle Freeland is going to be going for the Rockies. Meanwhile, Zach Allen goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you're looking at the Diamondbacks, you're going to be finding them anywhere between minus 108 and minus 112. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Rockies, you're finding them anywhere between even money and minus 105. Your total on this game is 11. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 105. And with Zach Allen, he's got an incredible streak going. He has never allowed more than 3 earned runs in a start to his career. He has been absolutely terrific for this team. I believe that the Arizona Diamondbacks have won every one of his starts so far this year, despite the fact that he's gotten 3 no decisions, 2.81 ERA. This is someone that he is just out there and he is dealing in for that consecutive start streak. 18 straight. So he certainly has been able to do his job. And for Kyle Freeland, this is someone that was absolutely terrible during 2019. But in 2018, he was a guy that really figured out how to pitch at Coors Field. If I remember correctly, he's actually a native of the state of Colorado. And as a result, he was just able to completely deal for this team. You take a look at what he did just at home during the 2018 season as he was your F5 Warrior. A 2.40 ERA in 15 starts, 10-2 record. He was absolutely tremendous. In 90 3 2/3 innings. He wound up giving up right around 1.1-ish home runs per 9 innings. That is absolutely amazing when you consider the ballpark. And when you take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is a team that it does seem like their offense is starting to get online a little bit more. You do have to like the fact that they were able to erupt in the first couple innings of that game on Monday. You've got the Marte Parte, Cattell and Starling Marte. Both of these guys are hitting at 320 or greater. Now with Cole Calhoun, he's hitting right at the Mendoza line, but he's been able to give the team a little bit more power recently. He had a home run on Monday. David Peralta is now hitting just below a 300. And then you've got a couple guys like Eduardo Escobar, John Jay, and Nick Ahmad. They just need to pick it up. And with the Colorado Rockies, it certainly has been a little bit of a slog for Nolan Arenado, but in the team's last homestand, he was able to give the team a couple home runs. You've got Matt Kemp hitting at 270. You gotta love what Charlie Blackmon is doing. A 476 batting average. I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. Trevor Story, he was able to write another chapter in his home run book. 6 home runs so far this year for him. You've got to like what he's able to bring to the table. But then you take a look at the Colorado Rockies. They've just got a little bit more in the bullpen with guys like Jario Diaz and company. I do think that both of these guys are going to be able to give a very solid start. But in the end, I am going to be going with Zach Gallen here because when you take a look at Gallen, 3 earned runs or fewer given up in every one of his career starts. I think that he's going to be able to go another 6 strong in this one. Offense has really got going on Monday. I do think that they're going to be cooled down a little bit more here, and I think that the Diamondbacks are starting to find their swing as well after they were just off to a really bad start their first 10 or so games of the season. So we're going to be going with the Arizona Diamondbacks in this spot, and we're going to be going with the total under as well. 973, 974 on the betting board is up next. The Seattle Mariners are going to be hitting the road to face off against the Texas Rangers. Mike Minor is going to be going for the Rangers. Meanwhile, Marco Gonzalez goes for the Seattle Mariners. If you're looking at the Mariners, you're going to be finding them anywhere between plus 120 and plus 130. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Texas Rangers, anywhere between minus 130 and minus 140. Your total on this game is 8. Over is just anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 105. With Mike Minor, he certainly had a solid 2019 season, but he was one of those guys that had a fielding independent that was more than a full point higher than his ERA, and so far, regression has set in. He is 0-3 on the season, 15 2/3 innings. He's got 15 strikeouts, but he's walked 5. He's given up 2 home runs. He's just given up a little bit too much contact in general. But I will say this, his one good start this year against the Colorado Rockies that did come at home. Now, with the ballpark out there in Arlington, the roof has been open and closed, but I do think that this is certainly playing a whole heck of a lot more different than it did during the 2019 season. And for Marco Gonzalez, he's been pretty solid for the Seattle Mariners. He's made 3 starts so far this year, 17 2/3 innings. He's given at least 6 innings of length in 2 out of his last 3 starts as well. This is someone that he's been hurt by 3 unearned runs, and he does wind up giving up quite a few home runs. 4 home runs so far this year in 17 2/3 innings, but the ballpark out there in Arlington is playing quite a bit more pitcher friendly. I still think that this is just way too low of a total though. You saw both offenses really being able to ignite on Monday, especially the Seattle Mariners, who are now 8-0-1 to the over in road games so far this year, and out there in Arlington after a 1-7 start to overs at the beginning of the year, 2 straight. I think it becomes 3 straight with the way that the Mariners are swinging, because you've got Kyle Lewis, who's averaging a home run every 3.5 games for his career. He's certainly been able to get things going. You do have to like the fact that you're now getting a little bit more solid contact out of the Seattle Mariners as well. Monday was very big for that, but you've got Dylan Moore hitting above a 300. You've got Kyle Seager hitting right in that neighborhood of about a 300, and Austin Nola as well. He's been a little bit banged up. Tim Lopez has seen a dip in his batting average, and Daniel Vogelbach is hitting a .05. And then you also have out there Evan White, who's hitting just below a .25 as well. So that's not necessarily great, but J.P. Crawford is getting on base. I think that Seattle, despite the fact that their bullpen, far from great, was done a favor by Justin Dunn being able to get her done and go into the 6th inning. So for that reason, we're going to be riding with the Seattle Mariners in this spot, and I'm going to be taking this total over as well. 975, 976 on the betting board is up next. You've got the San Francisco Giants, and they're going to be hitting the road facing off against the Houston Astros. It is to be determined for the San Francisco Giants. Meanwhile, going for the Houston Astros, it is going to be Brandon Bielak. And this is a game that is currently off the board because we have no earthly idea what the San Francisco Giants are going to do. We can play the process of elimination game, though. You wound up having Logan Webb go for them on Monday. That means that in this spot, you're probably going to wind up getting someone like Tyler Anderson. Tyler Anderson making his last start on Thursday. So just playing the rotation game, I guess you could say. He should be next up for this team. You might wind up getting Drew Smiley as well, but with that said, you really can't trust in either of these guys. And with Bielak, he actually gave a good start against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We were talking about this with our good buddy Patrick Creighton. He wound up going in his first start against the Arizona Diamondbacks. 5 strong innings, didn't give up any runs. So you do have to like what you saw there. This is certainly not a guy that's going to give you too many punch-outs. He's got 7 strikeouts so far, 9 1/3 innings, but he does a good job of being able to just limit the hard contact. Walks can be a little bit of an issue, but you take a look at the San Francisco Giants lineup, you do have to sense a little bit of regression coming in for the team. They wound up having a rough go of it on Monday. Mike Yastrzemski is still hitting a 306, and Donovan Solano, he's not going to continue to hit above a 400. That's just not going to happen. You've got Austin Dickerson, Brandon Belt, along with Brandon Crawford. All these guys are hitting at 220 or lower. You've got Chadwick Trump, who's hitting at 250. He's been doing a solid job being able to fill in for Buster Posey, but I think at some point that's going to catch up with it. And for the Houston Astros, this is a team that I feel like they really needed Monday because Martin Maldonado, who had really been scuffling, he was able to give the team a home run. You pretty much got a hit out of nearly all of your star players. Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, Jose Altuve and company, and like Patrick was saying, you're not going to expect Jose Altuve to continue to hit below the Mendoza line all year long. You're still currently without George Springer. No doubt that's a little bit of a loss, but you still have Yoli Gurriel. Carlos Correa is hitting at 345, and you got to think at some point Miles Straw is going to hit a little bit better than the under $150 that he is right now. Now, with the Houston Astros, obviously the bullpen is a little bit of a question, but Lance McCullers doing what he did on Monday, going north of 7 innings, and he was just absolutely terrific. That certainly does this team a whole lot of favors. In this spot, I'm probably going to be looking at some sort of an Astros run line, whether it is Smiley or Anderson, unless if you see just some ridiculous price like the Astros north of 250. I certainly don't think that we're going to be winding up seeing that. And the total, it's going to depend. If you're seeing something like a 9.5, I probably would be taking a look at an under in the spot, but check back in the morning on my Twitter feed at GRS41 because a lot of factors are going to be playing into that one. We move on to 977, 978 on the betting board. You've got yourself the Oakland A's, and they are going to be hitting the road to face off against the LA Angels. It is going to be one Dylan, don't call me Al Bundy, going for the LA Angels. Meanwhile, going for the Oakland A's, it is going to be one of our good friends, Mike Straight Fires. And if you're looking at the Oakland A's, well, it is Straight Fires. You're getting a plus price here. With the Oakland A's, you're going to be finding them anywhere between plus 130 and plus 135. All of a sudden, seeing some plus 140 pop out there as well. With the LA Angels, you're finding them as high as a minus 153, as low as a minus 140, and your total on this game is 9. With the over, it's anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Under is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And with Dylan Bundy, he's coming off a complete game against the Seattle Mariners, a Mariners team that oddly is scoring more than 2 more runs on the road than they are at home. I don't know how, and I don't know why. I know that Seattle is a little bit of a harder place to be able to drive runs in at, but with that said, that just seems like a very extreme split, and that's putting it very politely, but that is exactly what we have before us. And for Dylan Bundy, he certainly had his scuffles with the Baltimore Orioles because he just wound up giving up a couple too many home runs. And then you take a look at Mike Fiers. He's always gotten off to some notoriously slow starts to begin the year, but what I like about him is the fact that he's only given out 3 walks in 16 innings so far this year, so he's been doing a nice job of being able to keep the game out in front of him. The team has strangely won all 3 of his starts, despite the fact that he wound up having overs in 2 of them, which has not really been the MO of the Oakland A's. But you take a look at this lineup, and all of a sudden the Oakland A's have certainly been able to emerge. They were going up against a righty and Julio Teheran, and they completely lit them up. This is a team that typically do a little bit better against lefties, but how about Matt Chapman? He's now got 6 home runs so far this year. All of a sudden, he's hitting well above a 250. Matt Olson is still hitting below the Mendoza line, but Mark Canha has been able to find something along with Ron Loreno. Both these guys hitting between a 260 and a 270. Robbie Grossman in just below 300. Now, Chad Pinder needs to pick it up, but by and large, this is a team that they're starting to get a little bit of offense generated. And for the Angels, finally, Anthony Rendon was able to give this team a home run on Monday, but he's still hitting below a 200, along with Shohei Ohtani, along with Albert Pujols, Justin Upton. You've got Joe Adele hitting below that mark as well. You do have a couple guys that are obviously out for this team. Mike Trout has 4 home runs ever since coming off of paternity leave. David Fletcher, along with Brian Goodwin, have both been doing a good job of being able to reach base, so Goodwin has been in and out of the fold the last couple days. Tommy Lassell is an on-base right around a 400, so you've got a little bit of something going on. But with the Angels, what I think is very striking is that this is just a very top-heavy lineup at the bottom. As I was mentioning, you just don't have a lot going on with this team. With the Oakland A's, they just don't hit righties the same way that they do lefties, but I have a lot more faith in this Oakland A's bullpen as well. Even if Mike Fiers winds up giving up 2 or 3 runs, I think that you could have someone like a Yasmero Petit, Wankeep, Soria being able to bridge a gap and then get to Liam Hendricks for a save. And with the Angels, this bullpen is just not very good. They wound wound up being able to get some relief out of Matt Andriese, but even he got chilled after Julio Teheran wound up getting just completely lit up like a Christmas tree, so you certainly have a whole lot of that going on, but I do think that we're going to see a lot more of a calm game than we wound up seeing on Monday. I'm going to be taking this little under, but we're going to be riding with the Oakland Athletics in this spot, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. You got yourself the LA Dodgers, and they are going to be playing host to the San Diego Padres. Garrett Richards was supposed to go on Monday, but he's had his start pushed back, and he's going to be going today instead, and he is going to be going up against Mr. Ross Stripling of the LA Dodgers. If you're taking a look at the Dodgers in this spot, money is actually coming on the Padres, as you're able to get the Dodgers anywhere between minus 158 and minus 170. Meanwhile, your plus price here with the Padres anywhere between plus 155, and I'm seeing as low as a plus 148 as well. Total on this game ranging between 8.5 and 9. On the 8.5, overs anywhere between minus 120, minus 125. Unders anywhere between even and plus 105. On the 9, under is minus 120, and the over is even. With Garrett Richards, certainly has been a little bit of a slog for him to begin the season. He's been dealing with a whole bunch of injuries, but what you have to like about him is that he does a good job of being able to get some swings and misses. Over his last couple years, he certainly has been able to do a solid job of that, and 16 strikeouts and 15 2/3 innings so far this year. That's what you'd like to see. 4.60 ERA, and then for Ross Stripling, he's been able to win all 3 of his starts so far this campaign. You may recall in 2018, he wound up making the All-Star game as a starter. He was pushed back into the bullpen during the 2019 campaign. Now, I will say he's coming off a performance in which he gave up 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings against the Padres, but I think he's going to be able to do a little bit of a better job here. He does a good job of being able to generate some swings and misses as well. For Stripling, 16 strikeouts in 18 innings so far this year, only 4 walks. He's done a good job of keeping the game out in front of him with the Padres. We all know about this very good bullpen. You got so many guys that are able to come in, like an Emilio Pagan. I do like what I'm seeing out of Drew Pomeranz as well. Kirby Yates certainly got off to a little bit of a rough start to the year, but I think he's starting to find it. And with the Dodgers, the bullpen has not necessarily been terrible as well. You got guys like Pedro Baez, Kenley Jansen and company that are certainly a little bit more trustworthy guys. And you got to think that the Dodgers at some point are going to be able to bust out with the bats, because you've got quite a few guys hitting below a 200 at this point. Will Smith, Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, Matt Beattie, all hitting at that line or lower. Now, you've been able to get a whole lot of something out of A.J. Pollock, but he wound up getting the day off on Monday. You do have to like that you're getting a whole lot of something out of Mookie Betts as well. He had that big 3-run home run, but I just haven't liked what I've seen out of the L.A. lineup the last couple days, and we know that L.A. is a ballpark that plays a little bit more pitcher-friendly as well. And for the Padres, how about Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting above a 300? He's tied for the league lead in home runs. You've also got Eric Hosmer back at the fold. He and Jake Cronenworth are both hitting above a 325. Will Myers has been able to do a solid job as well. He and Trent Grisham have been able to supply some pop. Now with Trent Grisham, he's out hitting below a 250. He's been seeing a little bit of a dip there, but you got to think that he and Tommy Pham are going to be able to pick things up a little bit. I do think that there's some value here on the San Diego Padres. Even if Richards winds up giving up a couple runs, I think the bullpen is going to have his back. I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring affair. So we're going to be playing this total under, and I'm going to be going with the San Diego Padres. And now we'll wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Tuesday. A big thanks to Patrick Creighton of ESPN 97.5 in Houston for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you ever have a question for the podcast, write it into my timeline at Aaron Squarty1. Hopefully you're all safe, hopefully you're doing well, and I will talk to you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.